Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's 9E28, unit number 4, Hazrat Asma Rizal Anha. We are revising comprehension of Hazrat Asma Rizal Anha. Comprehension is to understand and remember what you have read. It is not a question answer activity, but a tool to check how much have you understood from the text or passage. For any piece of writing, for any expression, phrase, sentence, passage, extract, composition, and book, there is a complete comprehension or understanding is required. Let's revise some of the rules for doing comprehension. Read every question carefully and understand it clearly. Certainly, answer would be wrong if you didn't understand what had been asked. Answer the question precisely. Unnecessary detail sometimes takes you away from the required answer, so it should be to the point. Use the same tense and voice used in the question. It is also a necessary thing. Write answer in complete sentences. Question types. Usually two types of questions are used to check your comprehension skills. Open and close-ended questions. Open-ended questions have a variety of options, unlike close-ended questions with a limited response. What? Open-ended question, if begins with what, then we need to write object, idea, feeling, effort, suggestion, plan, situation, condition, action, reaction, etc. What was the purpose of migration? What kind of preparations are required for the migration? Next, if the question begins with why, then we need to write reason and cause. For example, why did Hazrat Muhammad ﷺ decide to migrate? Why did Hazrat Asma Raziallahu Anha use her belt for tying the food? In the same way, if the question begins with which, object, item, idea, event, incident, group of people, etc. are required in the answer. For example, which incident is called as Hijrat Medina in the history of Islam? And which object is used by Hazrat Asma Anha to tie food? If the question begins with where, then place and enclosure is to be necessarily written in the answer. For example, where did the immigrants migrate? Where did Hazrat Asma Anha place the pebbles? When indicates time. So when dealing with when questions, day, date, month, year, duration, season, phase of life, etc. is to be written in the answer. For example, when did the migration take place? When did Hazrat Asma Anha died? Next is, if the question begins with who, whom, and whose, then person or people is to be mentioned. For example, who knocked at the door violently? Who helped the immigrants? Next question type is how. Whenever how is there in the question, then we have to write way, method, process, solution, technique, etc. in the answer. For example, how did Hazrat Asma Anha console her grandfather? How did the chiefs react after knowing about the migration of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Now let's have a look at the other type of questions that begins with auxiliaries or helping verbs. Or words, we call them yes or no questions because of their limited or fixed responses. Questions begins with is, am, are, do, does, will, can, has, have, and their past forms. For example, did Hazrat Asma Anha provide food to the immigrants? Did Abu Jahl slap Hazrat Asma Anha? From paragraph number 1, there is an example of how. How did the tribal chiefs of Makkah react on knowing about the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam's migration? The tribal chiefs of Makkah got much furious on knowing about the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam's migration. They were so determined for his capture that they offered huge rewards for this purpose. Paragraph number 3. Did the immigrants take refuge during the journey of migration? Now, this is the clear indication that is to be mentioned in the answer. Answer: during the journey of migration, the immigrants took refuge in the cave of Sor that lay in the rugged mountains. Paragraph number 4. Question: What happened when Abu Jahl asked about Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq Razillah anhu? Answer: when Abu Jahl asked about Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq Razillah anhu, Hazrat Asma Razillah anha simply posed a counter question. It infuriated Abu Jahl, and he slapped her face so hard that her earring fell off. Question, action, and the reaction of Abu Jahl is asked, and reaction of Abu Jahl is written as per the requirement. From paragraph number 5. Question is, how did Hazrat Asma Razillah anha console her grandfather? The whole Hazrat Asma Razillah anha gathered some pebbles from a corner of the house, put them at the place where her father used to place his wealth and jewels, and then she covered them with a piece of cloth. When her grandfather touched the cloth, he thought it was full of gold and jewels. In this way, she consoled her grandfather, acting very wisely. Then all the details of each and every action that Hazrat Asma has taken with her worried grandfather. So that is our today's lecture. Revision of Comprehension, Hazrat Asma Razillah Ta'ala Anha. For today, Allah Hafiz.